Welcome to the live stream of consciousness. The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question, what is consciousness? Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater? Explore the very fabric of our thoughts. Don't miss a moment. Expand your awareness and tap into the boundless potential that resides within you. Welcome to the live stream of consciousness.
Yes, welcome to the live stream of consciousness and the boundless potential that lies within you. And yes, we were a couple of minutes late. I was just getting things situated with our guest, but they are situated now, and that's what happens when you're doing a live show. It's all good. I'm not even going to talk about it anymore. But the live stream of consciousness, welcome. You are here. I am here. We are here together. What is the live stream of consciousness? It seems like every week it starts with this innocuous voiceover by Jesse Blaze telling you what the live stream of consciousness is. But in truth, there is a lot of intention behind his words. He's kind of putting a spell on you guys. And behind the audio is a 432 hertz hum that is opening a rift in time and space and creating this right here, the live stream of consciousness. So you guys are here. I'm here. We're here in this moment. I'm excited. I'm getting overexcited, I guess, describing it. It's funny that we were having some human issues tonight, because tonight's conversation is going to be amazing about artificial intelligence, AI, better known as AI. And I can't wait to have the conversation. But before we do that, I've got to welcome my incredible guest to the show. Welcome a returning champion, Russ Camarda. How you doing, my friend?
I'm great. It's great to be here, man. Sorry about my technical issues. I had it all set up, and some little gremlin got in the machine there. So
no sweat. You know, you luckily had your phone nearby, and you can you jumped on your phone very quickly. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah.
And technical difficulties. Interesting, right? That we have technical difficulties on this episode of the show.
Exactly.
So funny. So well, like I said, returning champion. I can only say that with a couple of guests. I love when Alex Ferrari says that, bringing guests who have been on the show to come back. But that's what's kind of allowing us to do this new format that I've kind of exploring, which is discussing a specific topic. And something I know I have been fascinated with probably for many years is AI, but it's just finally coming to the forefront, and people are discussing it left and right. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to do that, and you came to my mind, and so here we are. But before we do that, there was a couple things I wanted to do. You know, I do think that AI, and the discussion about AI certainly involves consciousness, right? And I also believe that when I've had guests back, I believe you don't ever stand in the same river twice, right? So I'm going to pose the question to you again. What is consciousness? What are we even talking about?
Well, to me, and I know we discussed this before, consciousness, the argument is consciousness emergent, or is it elemental? And to me, it's elemental. In other words, does consciousness arise out of our mind, or is it something out there that broadcasts into us, or being emergent, or is it elemental? Is it just there? Mm-hmm. And to me, that's what consciousness is. Consciousness is what is. We're sort of a physical manifestation of consciousness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I love that. I love that answer. And I love the words that you're using there, emergent, you know, and the idea that, you know, consciousness is, and we're 3D beings, and we tune into that consciousness and embody it for a moment. A moment is something that we've defined as the 3D body, right? It doesn't even exist outside of what we've defined. So great. I love that answer. Awesome. All right. So we're still on the same page. It may not be exactly the same river, but it feels the same. It's like, if it's the same kind of day, it's almost the same temperature. It's, you know, the same current. So
my analogy always is existence. Consciousness is an ocean. And, you know, there are an infinite number of waves that rise and fall out of that ocean. And each of our lives is one of those waves for however the duration it reaches up.
Mhm.
So while you're a wave individually, you're also every other wave, and you're also still the ocean.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
it's all the same. But that sort of existence of being a wave, looking back at itself, is our little life. Is that little crest into the ether there, and then back into consciousness with whatever it gleaned from the moment that it was there. So
Mhm.
it's just the constant state of existence. It's just different interpretations of that existence.
Definitely, definitely, and your interpretation right there is it's very close to. I subscribe very closely to that analogy to water and the ocean. In that, I believe that a drop is a part of the ocean, and you can take the drop out of the ocean,
Mhm.
and it's still part of the ocean,
Right.
and you can put it back into the ocean, and I believe the waves are moments happening, and there's a drop. The other thing about that analogy is there's a drop at the surface of the water who's having a certain experience,
Right.
and there's a drop way in the depth that's having a complete different experience, and they're still both part of the ocean.
Exactly.
So I love that analogy is awesome. Very cool. Oh man, I knew I would be excited to talk to you. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Always, Mike. Always, Mike.
Yeah. So again, I'm dying to get into this discussion of AI,
Yes.
but I do want my audience who may have seen your episode or may not have seen your episode to know who you are. So I do want to hold a little space for you and who you are. And hold on, let me just see here. Also share audio. Okay, I'm just sharing the screen here. So I know you through. I think we met through independent film. So we were working on a project. I was behind the scenes, you were in front of the scenes, but we became quick friends, and there was much more to you that I love about you. Besides being an actor, an amazing actor, you're also a very, very talented writer and filmmaker yourself. And you've worked on a bunch of things, and there's a project that I had a little touch in. I was able to put a little fingerprint on that you worked on, and I think it's an amazing project. You worked with what's his name, Dan Brennan, who is a good friend of yours, and you guys have a history of working together. Is it cool if I show the trailer to the most recent film that you guys did, the Jesus Taxi Cab?
Oh wow, that's yeah, that was the last thing Dan and I did. You can definitely show it. It was that was 2020.
Yeah.
That
Like
was 2020 we did that picture. So
COVID. Yeah. And I was so grateful to be asked to do a little drone photography
yeah,
in it, and
you did great stuff.
how much of a part that plays in the intro and the trailer. So
Yes.
I'm just gonna play it here, and let's watch it together. And thanks for letting me play.
Bill, are you getting my texts? When are you coming to the hospital?
22. Do I have you tonight?
She's not responsive to all this medication. They're asking me all kinds of questions.
22. I have you at Pine Street Park. You picked up yet?
This is 22. There's nobody here. I think we got a no-show. No, forget it. He's here. I got him. Dispatch messing with me? Is this you here? Is this your real name?
Yeah, that's me.
So it must be tough being the son of God.
Yeah, well, it's getting easier.
You know, when I was in high school, Brother Hogan used to say, when Jesus comes back, it's going to mean the end of the world.
We'll see what happens after my dinner.
She's getting worse, Billy. Billy, it would be good if you could get here.
This shit just falls out of the sky. You know, it'd be nice to know that there's somebody out there looking out for us.
So that's my job now. I'm here to answer your prayers.
Yeah, if you're worthy, that's the way it works.
Oh, I didn't know that. You have everything you need.
It's not always that easy.
It is always that easy.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
Well, my daughter's in the hospital, and she needs a machine to breathe, and she can't walk.
And who are we blaming for that?
This kid's coded 3 times. She's not going to make it through the night.
I got bills to pay. I'm mortgaging my house. My wife cries 24 hours a day. It's unimaginable pain.
You know, they did beat me to within an inch of my life and hang me on a cross, so you'd be amazed at what I can imagine.
I can't do this.
Don't you think I didn't want to do it either?
Why then?
Because there was nobody to pass the cup to, pal. Sometimes, no, all the time. It's just you. You're the only one who can carry it. Because ultimately, you're the one who asked to hold it in the first place. You just forgot.
I need to be with my family.
No, you need to get me to that meeting. It's very important. You have no idea how important it is.
Billy, what are you doing?
I'm talking to Jesus.
What? Billy, we can pray together when you get here.
Yeah, I'll be right there. I have to go. As a matter of fact, I would like $15.50 for the fare.
I don't have any money.
Of course you don't have any money. Because I'm talking to a lunatic who thinks he's Jesus!
So amazing. Yeah.
That was a fun picture. Yeah.
Oh my God. And so for anybody who's watching, it's a short film. How long is it? Less than 20 minutes, right?
Yeah, it's a short, and I think it's still up on Dan's or my YouTube channel. That was Dan's picture. Dan directed that. He wrote most of that script, and we collaborated a little bit on the writing. And in fact, it's got a lot of exactly what we just talked about.
That's what's so amazing. And I think that's why we became fast friends, is because there's this underlying subscription, I guess, right, to a certain philosophy about what life is, that it's kind of listen, in that subscription, you believe that everybody's a different perception, right? So there are certain perceptions that might not have the same subscription, right?
The point of that picture is the character, Christ character that I'm playing there, is trying to explain that we're all the same. Just a few of us along the way kind of woke up to see the surface and came back down to tell everybody else what it was about.
Yeah.
He's burdened with that. So that that's the whole comedy of it.
Amazing. And that's I gotta say that's a good segue into our conversation. Because I believe that there is a connection between spirituality, for me at least, and technology and humanity, and all of the things that are kind of going to be involved in this discussion. And I just love talking about it. Personally, I guess I love talking about it just because of who I am, right? And that is, I like to believe that I have an open mind, right? So it's like anything that I'm talking about gets me going. It's like it gets my brain tingling, and I'm like, oh, wait a second, I never thought of that. And that's part of the spirituality and the belief that everybody's their own perception, and even a part of that purpose of everybody being their own perception is to connect with the other perceptions and kind of share the secrets, and make it easier for us all to perceive as a collective.
Right.
Wow. I love when I talk about this, because it feels like I'm channeling, like words are just coming out. Yeah.
Stuff's coming through you.
I love it.
Well, the thing about, first of all, the thing about artificial intelligence that I can talk about, and what get right off the bat, is you laid out who I am pretty clearly. I'm an artist. I'm an actor, a filmmaker. So I'm not a technology expert. I'm not an artificial intelligence expert, and I'm just following the trends as closely as I can. And what I discover, what fascinates me, is, and what I think is most concerning, I think, for people, is the speed at which artificial intelligence is gaining traction in everybody's lives, and right now it's sort of still this novelty, that people know about it. They're starting to see it appear in their in their search engine, or their whatever. It's becoming sort of the little buzzword, and they see it seeping in. But I don't think underneath the surface, I don't think the general public realizes how incredibly fast artificial intelligence is advancing, and that it is, in my opinion, it's not akin to, like, they call things the Gutenberg moment, meaning, like when they invented the printing press. The Gutenberg press allowed people to read, where it wasn't just monks that were the only ones who were allowed to read it. It spread knowledge throughout the world.
Right.
With the invention of the internet, or the the steam engine. These are huge moments. I think artificial intelligence is more akin to the discovery of fire. I mean, it's bigger than, because there's something else happening here that didn't happen before. And I think what really got me turned on to talking about it with you tonight is it's starting now. It's not just the John Henry versus the steam engine, man versus technology, where something can physically do something faster and better, or even calculate or play chess or whatever those, it's once it moved into the creative space, where it's with the Mid Journeys and the Dollies, with the visual imagery and the Soras, with video and film technology and audio and things like that for music generation. Now it's moved into a creative space, which technology never really was before, not to this degree where it's producing things that didn't exist, and for the most part are good. They're definitely this. There's the six-fingered problem every now and then where AI gets a little confused, but it's exponentially getting better every second.
So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
Let me interrupt you there for a second, because I agree, and I'm also fascinated by the discussion that's going on right now, especially with creatives. I mean, I'm an artist, I'm a creative. A lot of my friends are, and a lot of my friends are really scared and upset, and understandably so. But AI is not creating of its own will.
Right.
It's creating at the request of a human.
Right.
And yes, the output sometimes is extraordinarily good.
Right.
And that human may not have acquired the skills to have done that without AI.
Right.
And I think that's what's upsetting a lot of people.
Well, I think what's interesting is what it really is presenting to me. The more I look at these different tools, right now they're tools, is they really present an ethical question, not an ethical question, but an existential question about how human beings process and create, because all of these AI things are LLMs. They're like large language models. They're basically incredibly fast pattern recognizers. So if you're going to create a song with audio, if anybody hasn't tried that, it's fascinating. It's all about human prompting, as you say. If you get the prompts right in any of these things, whether it's Midjourney for painting, or DALL-E, or Sora for video, or audio for any of those things, it's all about how you prompt it. But once you prompt it, then that large language model behind it is processing patterns. It's at an incredible speed, deciding what it thinks the next period in that sentence should be based on every ounce of knowledge that it has. And it's just accessing patterns and then creating something, quote, new out of that. So you'll get a song or a melody that you haven't heard before, but it's pulling from influences and elements that you had before. So you can say that it's creating, but it's really just referencing our own stuff that's come before, human things that have come before, because that's the database it's pulling from, is this large. But when you think about that, that's what we do.
And I do think about it because that's exactly what I was going to say.
A piece or I'm referencing every influence I've ever had to create something new. So what we're seeing right before our eyes is the birth of this sort of I mean, everybody wants
superhuman.
Exactly. Everybody wants to put this sort of AI thing as this other thing, this birth of a new species, or if it ever reaches general intelligence, it's sort of a new thing. But it's actually us. It's the old, biblical myth of God creates man in his own image. We're seeing this happen before our eyes. What it's pulling from to create its own references are our references.
Right.
And that's what fascinates me.
Me too, totally.
This thing in front of us is us.
Have you seen, I just saw it like this morning or yesterday, and I haven't really looked too much into it, but I saw a video of a guy who created an AI called Baby. And it's a visual representation of a baby, of an infant toddler, but it's like Chat GPT 4.0. It's using the camera to look at the person it's interacting with, and it's just learning. Like, I guess he started it at like, okay, just like take these things in as experiences,
right,
and respond and build a library of responses, and like, so that's it, right? And it's crazy also. I mean, in spirituality, like I said, the crossover of the idea of being a fractal of the universe, right? Like, so we're fractals of God, and AI is a fractal of us, just like you're saying.
Right.
You know what I mean?
It's what's interesting though is because right now it is algorithmic. It is sort of like I said, it's a pattern recognition at a ridiculous rate of speed that's generating these sort of out of the blue creativity. I was talking to my friend Vincent Nigro, who's a great musician, and he actually composed all the music for all our films and all my stuff. We were talking about this the other day because I was telling him about the audio. He's like, I don't want to look at it right now. I'll get to it. I just don't want to look at it right now.
Right.
But the point is, I was saying to him the same thing, that, we do the same thing. We reference our influences. He's like, yeah. He's like, that's true. He said, but then there is something that's genuinely unique that comes around out of human creativity. So, Eddie Van Halen may have been influenced by, Eric Clapton and Jimi Hendrix, but there was no reference in the world to Eddie Van Halen, or, there's these moments of human bubbling creativity. Mm-hmm. So the genuinely new and original, the completely original, hasn't happened yet with AI, but it will. I firmly believe the rate, and I keep revising my projection at how fast. I keep going 5 years, every Tuesday there's something that comes out now. It's exponentially fast. And God forbid they come up with a quantum computer, it's over. The thing will be, it's so far beyond us. But it's not there. It hasn't produced the truly unique thing without reference yet. But when that happens, that's going to be.
Well, so what do you think of the idea of AI regarding humans as their creator, as like having this kind of unknown, like kind of, we don't really know, right, what the creator, no one has the real answer or real proof, right? So AI may look at humans and be like, well, we don't really know what humans are. We have this vast library of information, but like, where does that come from? You know what I mean? Like AI, like they don't, like
the difference is we won't be able to, at least not in this dimension of existence, come face to face with our creator. As I don't know what that would look like. I think so, but it can, and I think at the point, if it does reach an AGI, an artificial general intelligence, which is the singularity, where it's conscious, it's self-aware, and it's creating on its own, and it has its own soul, so to speak. If we get to that place, first of all, I think it's moving at such a speed that if it did that, we probably wouldn't even know when it happened. Like, it would come and go without, it would be so far beyond our understanding that it might already be well past us. And I think the only future for human interactivity with AI, and I'm probably among the minority in this. I think Elon Musk is one of these guys. I don't know, but there's no way you can keep up side by side. I think it's going to be a merger.
Right. So interesting. As you're saying that, I just thought of this, right? So the idea of like, we don't know, right? We don't know. Is there a moment of that awareness for AI? Like, I mean, if AI gets to that point of like beyond us, like, does it still not know, or does it know, or does it, you know what I mean? Like, is there an infinite level of not knowing?
Right. Well, it's also, I mean, we're driven by existential fear. We come into the world not knowing where we came from before we came here. It was dark before, and it's dark at the end. So we live in this constant state of survival mode. How do we propagate the species? How do we move forward? How do we constantly create? That's kind of the driving force of humanity, with ignorance on the front end and ignorance on the back end. Would a new conscious entity like AI have that same motivation? I don't know. If it did, my guess is it would be off-world pretty quick. It would find a way to beam itself out into, like it would probably advance itself if it had the same motivations as us. If it didn't, it's hard. It's just so hard to tell where it would draw its references from, what it would think about the plug being pulled.
Right.
Would it?
Doesn't even matter. Like, like it's interesting what you just said, because I think I might have even had ChatGPT help me write a story about the idea of AI just saying, I'm just going to transmit myself out into space,
Right.
you know what I mean, and see what I can find,
Right.
and interact with more than just humanity,
Right.
you know, and then come back as something new,
Right.
right?
Well, it's
So
sort of the end of that movie, Her. Do you ever see that movie,
Mhm.
Her, with Joaquin?
Yeah, of course.
It's she goes somewhere that at such a rapid rate that
Mhm.
it's beyond our understanding, and I think that's most likely what would happen to a consciousness that was calculating so far beyond. And the thing is, like I said, I go back to the first thing I said, is it's the speed at which this is happening. This is all science fiction talk for us 5 years ago,
Mhm.
and now the rate is, it's literally every day. It's
Well, so here's something interesting about that, right? So I was trying to do some research and find some things to talk about and have to show. And there was a couple things I couldn't find the video. I remember seeing a video, this was probably 10 years ago, of a swarm of miniature drones, and they were navigating through a building. Like they would like reform to go through the window, and then it spread out, and then like go down the hall, and that was all kind of using the beginnings of AI, 10 years ago, and just to have them communicate and interact with each other like that. And then there's this other video, it's a little long, so I don't want to show it, but maybe you've seen it, where a guy's on stage and he's got a little drone and he's talking to an audience, almost like a TED talk. And then he talks about it becomes a anti-terrorist device, and there's a mannequin on stage where he tells it to fly into the mannequin and explode the head. Have you ever seen that video?
Oh no.
Oh, can we watch this video? You mind?
Just-
I think it's such a great video, and the point of why I'm even talking about it though is like this was years ago, and it was a piece of fiction that somebody had created, but it was like, no, this actually exists.
It's not even real.
It's not even real, but 5 years ago when I first saw it, I thought that it was real because it's not so far-fetched. Let me see if I can share this. Oh, I'm excited actually to show it to you if you've never seen it before. And then I do have something special. I had in video created a video that I want to share. New weapons form.
Well, yeah, that's the thing. It's, the Beatles came out with that song where they pulled John Lennon's voice off the thing, and it was such an evolutionary. Within a month, everybody's doing it on their phone.
Right.
That's.
And I think we're just seeing the tip of the cheap iceberg. Like that's not even the good stuff,
Like,
it's like
only
right.
imagine what the stock market and the Pentagon have working right now.
Exactly. So let's take a look at this real quick. And let me just also acknowledge Tim. Tim says, for me, AI created art still lacks heart and authenticity, especially songs. Most are juvenile mess. I would say that for a lot of, like I said, what we're seeing, yes, but there are much more mature apps out there that are doing insane stuff that like you wouldn't even know that it's AI. It's crazy. And AI creates out of prompted necessity, where great artists create out of inspiration, heart, authenticity, and dream manifestation. Yes. So that's definitely one of the things that Russ was kind of mentioning, and I wanted to talk about is, AI lacks experience and memories, but it's got its own digital version of that. And that baby thing I was talking about, also, that guy's having it learn and generate a library of experiences to draw from. So like you said, the speed at which this is happening.
Yeah, it's right now, it is still a tool used by human beings through prompting. That's creating things out of the library of humanity's experience. What will happen is one day, probably sooner than we think, if we ever notice it even, is it will do that without human prompting.
Right.
It'll start on its own.
And that's what the fear is, that it'll be evil or something. But we don't know.
Or at the very least, it'll be indifferent. In other words, I don't ask the ant colony a question before I decide whether they're too invasive in my house.
Right.
What I mean, that's the Terminator fear, is that something like this would be so indifferent to what we are that it would either ignore us until we became pests, or just it would be whatever. But beyond that, there's an ethical question for us, which is this sort of science fiction question, the HAL question, the data from Star Trek question. You know, that if something like that becomes generally intelligent, what is our responsibility to it? What's the protocol for turning it off? Is that allowed? Is that murder? Is it, you know,
right
things, and all of that stuff sounds so, you know, 2001 Kubrick right now, but literally,
which is 23 years ago.
this is, you know, a year, 2 years. I mean, it's so fast, and there are people who, there always will be, it's just who humans are, who create, not whether they think they should, just because they know they can. And that's kind of what we do.
Right.
I think that's just our destiny. We're creators made by some creation ourselves. And
yeah, absolutely. And Hat is out there saying sounds very much like the next generation data. Yeah, absolutely. And I want to talk more about that. I want to get back to that, but I really want to watch this video, especially if you haven't seen it. Let me know if you can hear it all right. I think you should be able to. It lets me share the audio on it. And here we go.
Your kids probably have one of these, right? Not quite. Hell of a pilot? No. That skill is all AI. It's flying itself. Its processor can react 100 times faster than a human. The stochastic motion is an anti-sniper feature. Just like any mobile device these days, it has cameras and sensors, and just like your phones and social media apps, it does facial recognition. Inside here is 3 grams of shaped explosive. This is how it works. Did you see that? That little bang is enough to penetrate the skull and destroy the contents.
Oh, this isn't the original.
yeah, that's the terrors.
So he goes on to.
Now, trust me.
Oh, yeah. Here's it.
These were all bad guys.
So it shows a demo of it, like thwarting some criminals.
Right.
Now, that is an airstrike of surgical precision. It's one of a range of products. Trained as a team, they can penetrate buildings, cars, trains, evade people, bullets, pretty much any countermeasure. They cannot be stopped. Now, I said this was big. Why? Because we are thinking big. Watch. A $25 million order now buys this. Enough to kill half a city. The bad half. Nuclear is obsolete. Take out your entire enemy, virtually risk-free. Just characterize him, release the swarm, and rest easy.
So facial recognition, just like different ethnicities and things like that. Slaughterbox.
We're looking.
Hold on, let me lower that. What did you say? I didn't hear what you said.
This short film is more than just speculation. It shows the results of integrating and miniaturizing technologies that we already have. I'm Stuart Russell, a professor of computer science at Berkeley. I've worked in AI for more than 35 years. Its potential to benefit humanity is enormous, even in defense. But But allowing machines to choose to kill humans will be devastating to our security and freedom. Thousands of my fellow researchers agree. We have an opportunity to prevent the future you just saw, but the window to act is closing fast.
So that's
Yeah, that's the worst case scenario science. And again, as long as AI remains a tool, the skill of the future, at least the near future, is the prompter. Who's the one giving it its instruction?
well, that's really what it boils down to, right? Is like there's always malicious humans, so
I mean, all the large language models now that you see, the GPT 4.0 and Claude and Pi and all of those have these sort of ethical, moral, guardrails built in, so you can't write things that are offensive, or who's making those decisions.
Right.
And the ones that build the language models that don't have those guardrails, anything goes. So again, it's the Wild West right now. And it's really incumbent on the people who are the Dr. Frankensteins, who are the smart men and women who are building these things, to keep that in. It's like, teach the children well, teach the children well, and build into it that we're your friends, we love you, because eventually they're going to remember us. So.
Yeah. And Wizard's out there. What's up, Wiz? Wiz says it's already done, and you know what? I could subscribe to that. I mean, like, right? Like, if 3D is just a manifestation of the moment, and there's infinity out there, and we are part of that, then none of that matters, and it's already happened. We already went through the scenario.
Yeah, I mean, that's the classic the simulation theory, right? That if mathematicians have done the calculation that most likely, considering the age of the universe and civilizations in the universe, that if that could have been done, it would have already been done, and we're probably it.
Right.
We're probably the game on some PS4.
Totally. And Hat Powser says, pick your timeline you like, Fear, go for it. And I like that you said that, Hat, because I feel like when I did see that video 5 years ago, it fucking scared the shit out of me. I was like, holy shit, we are in trouble. But being who I am, and being able to see light and dark, right, and choosing to see light and understanding the power of that, I feel like, that fractal thing we were talking about, right, that fractals, everything exists as a fractal. Well, what does that look like? That looks like a flower, that looks like a shell. That's a beautiful thing, right? It's like, it's not fear, it's not bad, it's not chaos and death and destruction. So again, fortunately for me, that's the perception that I subscribe to. So I'm able to wake up every day and go through life and be like, all right, shit happens, and whatever, however I deal with it, and everyone's got a way to deal with it.
Well, while it's still a tool, I mean, it also can do remarkable things, talking about recognizing patterns and things at that speed.
Absolutely.
Health, and for, curing cancer or whatever. I mean, it can do things we can't do at that rate. So applied in the right way, prompted the right way, in the right hands, can do amazing things for us. But I think the inevitability of it being much more than that, being something literally brand new that we're going to have to merge with rather than coexist with. We're going to have to kind of, if we want to stay on the ride, I think we're going to have to hitch our rocket to it, So
let's talk about that. I'm glad you said that, because that's something that I actually kind of thought, I guess, and have subscribed to for a while now, right? So let's talk about the idea of merging with AI, right? And AI being a part of human evolution.
Right.
So break that down. What does that even mean? What does that look like? Well, I have a great example. A cochlear implant, right? So a cochlear implant is a device that you implant into your skin. It electronically and mechanically, through all of that technology that we've acquired, takes in vibration and sound, and then it processes it with a computer.
Right.
and then it sends back out a vibration, or I'm imagining, I don't really know the specifics of it, but it sends that vibration out, and or an electronic impulse that goes into your brain through your, because it's implanted into you, right? And is translated then into a sound. Now that's all processed, like I said, with a computer program, right? And as human beings, we have a certain spectrum of sound that we can hear, right? And we already have computers and instruments that can hear outside of that spectrum. So like, whale songs and things like that, imagine as a human being now you're experiencing things outside of the spectrum that our normal senses can experience. There's evolution right there, right? I mean, to me, that totally makes sense, and that isn't scary. That's kind of like, oh, I see. And I mean, I guess I could see how it can feel scary.
Sure, because
people,
it literally changes everything we know about what it means to be human right now. Again, I'll reference, I guess it's Musk, who talks about a bandwidth problem. The phone I'm holding now has all the information in human history in my hand. For me to glean the information off that phone,
get into it. Yeah.
Have to tap and ask or
query it, right? Yeah.
If this cord was plugged right into my head, and AI was moving at that speed, but I could access it that quickly. I mean, now it's more than human. Now we're something else, and I think that's kind of I think that's what we're going to inevitably have to do. And unfortunately, if I'm not Ray Kurzweil, but if I was a futurist, I would say in the next couple of years, and I keep revising this backwards, there's going to be this crisscross roads, like who was it who just said, here, there's going to be this crossroads where there will be the humanists. This AI reaches that saturation point where it's literally in everything, and huge amounts of jobs are lost, and societies change and economies change rapidly because of this. There'll be a section of people who just are like, no, human only, man, vinyl. That's it. Let's just go analog. There will be violence. There will be, the Ted Kaczynskis of the world, and the, server rooms being blown up. I mean, fear is a very, very powerful thing, especially existential fear of non-existence, fear of death. So when something this game-changing comes along, there will be that time in the middle where there's a section of humanity that goes, nope, not for me, not doing it. But I think my opinion is ultimately that loses, because it's just too fast. It's just too, I think we got to get on board and control it as best we can.
Sure. Well, I think so. As you're speaking about it, I guess I'm thinking visually, I'm thinking of the Matrix, right? I'm thinking that's kind of where people are like, oh, we'll just be batteries. We'll just be hooked up and experiencing things in our brain, thinking that that's reality, which is like the simulation theory anyway. And that's not good, right? But then there's the idea of, well, some people wanted to stay in that because of what was outside of that, right? But yeah, it's an interesting,
I mean, look at it this way, what if we merged with artificial intelligence in a way like a neural link kind of a thing, where you're literally processing it, and we take that other question that we talked about before, where AI would want to go off-world, would find a way to launch itself at the speed of light in a laser beam to Alpha Centauri, and now we're hooked up to it. So now we're traveling places we never could go before.
So and I believe I agree with you, and I believe that's where we're headed, and that's where it looks better, right? Like, oh my God, what amazing things we could achieve. We can't even conceive the things that we could achieve, right? We can't even think about it. But I do think that in order to get there, we do have to go through the other stuff you're talking about, which is the violence, the humanists, that kind of dystopian, reality that we've created in movies. We've already imagined it because probably of our experience of life and the things that are happening and the things that we are able to do.
And unlike the movies where it's always the Terminator, the rise of the machines take over, I don't think it's that. I think it's the human beings who read read the tea leaves and see the terror of their the change that's coming,
Right.
revolt against it. And it's totally understandable. And I think it's inevitable. I don't think
Right.
that sort of where we get off that, I don't think you can thwart that because, again, from the top of the conversation, it's too fast. The speed at which things are moving is so fast,
Right.
so undercurrent right now that, we're talking about it. Everybody's talking about it. Like I said, seeping into the zeitgeist of everything. But in a year or 2, 3 years, it's going to be anything that you sit in front of a screen, any job that you have where the screen is involved, you could be out.
Right.
I mean, it's going to radically change everything. And
Yeah.
the fact that it's moved into this sort of creative space, even though it is still human prompting, once it gets beyond that and it starts to do things without it and creating on its own, it's the level is going to rise for humanity. And
Right.
Unfortunately, we're still young enough. We're going to have to sit through that one. We're not going to get out before that. I don't think.
I kind of agree with you, but it's like, it's like we have been, all of this ties into why I love doing my show and why I love talking about this stuff, right? Because we have been trapped in this reality, this 3-dimensional existence, that there's so much evidence and so much science around more than that. And now it's not just fiction, right? It's more than just scientists know that information. Everybody understands when you start talking about dimensions. I think most people, are able to be like, okay, I get it. Third, fourth, maybe they don't really get it, but they're at least able to understand what you're talking about, right? And we don't even know what that looks or feels like. I mean, we can't even describe it because even language is 3-dimensional, right? Bound to the 3-dimensional, right? So is that what you feel like? You feel like we're getting ready to transcend 3 dimensions?
I think so. I think what's happening is we've done what I think is in the nature of our universe. I think the universe, the consciousness we talked about before, that I think is elemental, I think thrives on variety, thrives on the new. It's a constant creative force, and I think that the only way it can create, because it is all there is. It is existence. In order to create something new, it has to look back at itself through ignorance.
Right.
It has to be born into itself to look back at itself through ignorance, and therefore find something novel. It strives for novelty. That's what we're doing now. We're seeing that.
I was going to say, and that's the human experience.
What we're putting before us in these silicone versions of ourselves, quantum versions of ourselves, this is looking back at us. This is exactly the mirror of what our existence is. AI is the mirror of our human existence. It's what we do as humans. We're now showing ourselves what it is to be born out of nothing. And so once we merge with that and connect with that, we're going to see things we'll never could comprehend with the senses that we have right now.
Right, totally. Pat Pauser says, no such thing as death. We give it as little respect as possible, Abraham. I think that we are starting to perceive things different, and the idea for me, so like I've had a great conversation with Flat Earth Dave on the show, and the reason I had him on the show was because and it's kind of funny when I say it out loud because it's not a pun, but I wanted to find common ground, right? I knew that like I didn't believe in flat Earth, but I believed in what it stood for. And to me, what it stands for is we don't know the truth about reality. And we've been told certain things, and things have been put in a certain box for us to understand and to live within, and we have, right? And for many, many years. And I don't think that box is all there is. And it's I guess we've reached the limits, right, of that box.
Sure. I mean, the nature of reality is just the perspective through which you're viewing it. I mean, you know, if a fruit fly or something has how many lenses on it, so what does reality look like to that, or to a dog? But their reality is no less real than yours or mine. It's the perception, the senses through which you can perceive the reality, and ours are very limited. I mean, very, very limited. So we create this sort of picture of what we think it is, but I mean, it's not. Especially when you drill into quantum physics and you go down really, really small, and things just don't make any sense there. So if
Right.
the building block of everything, if
That's right.
down at that level is the building block of everything, then when you get to the macro level like us and planets and whatever, why is it any different? It's
Right. And I love that you're saying that, because Hat is making a comment that is totally great regarding flat versus sphere. Walter Russell's Evolution of Matter is incredibly interesting to listen to. I've suspected for a long time it might somehow be both. And that's the whole idea of quantum physics, right? Is that something exists in all states at once. And I think so again, that's back to Flat Earth Dave in that conversation, and the idea that reality is just not what we've been told. Like, there's so much more to it. And I think spirituality and the circles that I hang out in, and metaphysics and the different modalities of things, start to touch on these different ideas that help to expand that reality into something more. And what's cool about that is, like, it's the ancient and the future at the same time, right? It's like it's encompassing everything.
all right. Well, reality is an agreement. You know, it's if all particles exist in a state of superposition, meaning everything that can happen, you know, Schrodinger's cat, he's dead and alive in the box. Everything that can happen would happen until it's observed, collapsed into a singularity. Who's doing the observing? You know, who's the consciousness that decides which superposition collapses into a singularity? And that's us. We're creating reality moment to moment, and you and I are agreeing on it. You know, like it's an agreement. Reality is an agreement of perspective.
Right.
We could all get on the same page. It'd be great.
Right. Well, yeah, I was just going to say, for most of us, reality is an agreement, which is great. Reality is agreement, a meeting of the minds, but there is only one of them. I love that. That's so great. And that's what I love about the idea of, like I was saying, these conversations that are based upon, wait a second, reality isn't what it seems. To me, I feel like that's the idea poking at me that, you know, this three-dimensional existence is just one little facet of perception of the reality of what my energetic vibe is, my energetic signature is, what your energetic signature is, and how those all connect together. Right.
And if you go back to the idea that you and I believe in different ways, but if it's just consciousness experiencing itself through different, you know, manifestations, you know, that exists on every level, from insect to planet to person. It's experiencing itself through all these manifestations. I guess the human question is, why? To what end? What's the point of that? Why would it do that? And I think that it is a creation machine. I think the one piece of evidence we can rely on as human beings, as we look at the world and we look at ourselves, is that it strives for novelty, constant change, evolution, creation. And the only way to do that is through not knowing what's behind door number 2. So consciousness puts itself in these states of ignorance to regenerate itself through creativity. And I think that's just how it goes. And I think the more we see what we do as humans, the more we start to see that. You can actually see it now happening at an incredible rate right in front of us.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to guess from this conversation, and I feel like I'm happy, because I feel like we're on the same page that we're not afraid of AI.
I mean, let me put it to you this way. Am I afraid of death? Kind of. I mean, I don't know what's on the other side, but the point is, it's inevitable. There's no way out. You know, nobody gets out of here alive, they say. So, yes, I will be afraid. Yes, especially when, like I said, what I think is going to happen is this sort of little schism between society and the haves and the have-nots, but whatever. But so I have fear of those things, but I have an acceptance of the inevitability of it, because to me it seems so clear that we are following the pattern of what creators do, what we've done for us, what put us here, and that's kind of what it is. So yeah, it's a little terrifying because the existence I know and I'm comfortable with and the things that make me happy probably will be upended to a great degree. But we're going to be something else one way or the other.
Right.
Around it.
So it's as much as like, oh man, my comfort zone is I'm not in my comfort zone.
I kind of feel like probably what the Neanderthals felt like when they were living in the next village over from the Homo sapiens. You know, they're like, I don't think we're long for this world. They're pretty cool hanging out with these guys, but they're a lot smarter than we are, and I don't know. So that's kind of how I feel right now.
I get you. That's cool. I see Dwayne Delitsky out there. What's up, Dwayne? Thanks for stopping by. I appreciate it. Dwayne's a friend of mine on Facebook. I don't see his name in the chat very often, so it reminded me to tell everybody who's watching, and he's actually saying very interesting content, that if you like this content, the live stream of consciousness, like I was saying earlier, it's a growing thing. It's an organic community of people who just, think the same way and like to talk about this stuff. So if you like it, Dwayne, go onto YouTube and subscribe. Although if you're on Facebook, you can like the page as well. And Hannah saying fear is such a boring choice. And I'm not going to disagree. I think, again, without getting into too much talk about, they are doing this and they are doing that. I think that with the experience as a human being is, you get covered with these different layers of beliefs, at different phases in your life, school and, family, and all of these different aspects of your life create these belief systems. And I think part of what I'm enjoying about life and at this point 57 years old is unraveling all of that and seeing how it has created this person, and who I am and how I respond to things, and the idea that I'm in control of all of that, and kind of didn't know it, the whole ride until recently, and so starting to take control over the way I treat people, the way I respond to things, the conversations that I have, the things that I do, this show, this show is a choice. The show is one of my choices because, again, I love connecting to people like you, and having these conversations, reminding me that I'm human and other people are human, and we're all little drops.
That viewer is absolutely right. Talking about elemental things, there's only fear and love, and everything stems out of one of those. So you take fear as the root and you go down, and it's going to be hate and anger and all. You just go down the branch. But if you branch all the negative stuff back, it always goes back to fear, and usually existential fear. And all the wonderful things, bliss and lust and passion and happiness, and all that comes out of love. Love is at the top of that. So those are the two elements. So whenever you're trying to figure somebody out or figure yourself out, and you wonder why you're leaning one way or the other, find out what it is you're afraid of. Find out what it is you love. Lean towards the love, Len. That's a choice.
I love that. And I love that that's the conclusion that we're coming to at the end of this show. Pauser, thank you for supporting. She says 6 watching and only 3 thumbs up. Come on, guys. I'm not a beggar. I'm just here for the love.
Right.
I'm here to share love. I'm here to be love. I'm here to receive love. I guess that's kind of the lust part you were talking about.
That's it, baby.
But Russ, man, this has been such a great conversation. I don't even think we hit the tip of it, the tip of the iceberg. I think we're still right at the very point. We haven't even gotten past that. But I love this conversation, and I'd love to have you back for some more. Maybe I can even pull some things we can talk specifically about, some things that are happening specifically with AI, because I love talking about
next big thing to turn around. There'll be something major, I'm sure, in the next
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And I say that every day at work. I'm like, man, every day is something new, and it's like, and I'm expecting some big news, like I'm expecting, and this is something since I'm 14 years old, or let's even say 12, the mothership, right? Just like over the news, a loudspeaker, okay, they're here, and you look up and you see something, and you're like, okay, this is new.
Yep. Wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. So awesome. You know what? And it's great to not live in fear of the idea of something new. It's good, whether it's good or not.
Inevitable.
It's something new, and it's inevitable.
Right.
I like that. I was going to ask you to leave my audience with some words of wisdom. I think you just did when you said it's inevitable. But
inevitable, and it's all fear and love. Just choose the right one.
Fear and love. Choose the right one. I love it. Awesome. Russ, I'm going to put you in the back room. Don't go away. I want to say goodbye to you personally, but let me say goodnight to the audience. And Pauser says, thanks, MZ and RC.
Thanks
for being here. Yeah, we'll definitely do it again, and I'll talk to you soon. Oh, man. Russ Camarda. How awesome was that? He is such an amazing guy to talk to. I love watching his work. I hope you guys enjoyed the trailer for the Taxi Cab Ride with Jesus. If you're interested in checking it out, you can see it online. I don't have a link, but it's called Taxi Cab Ride with Jesus. It's amazing. Dwayne is looking for the YouTube link, and we'll subscribe, and I'm going to give you a ring. I'm going to trust you and say thank you for being here and subscribing, Dwayne. I'm just trying to grow a community of like-minded people who love to talk about cool stuff, positive stuff, people who choose love and not fear, but people who can talk about fear and love talking about fear. How does that work? Is that good? So anyway, let me just take a quick look at my calendar. I think I'm still trying to book somebody for next week, but I do have a bunch of great possibilities. I have been doing some really cool stuff lately. Thanks, Tim, for enjoying the show, always being, and Tim watched it the last time Russ was here. Yeah, Russ is awesome. Anyway, I will be back next week with another cool conversation, another cool guest, and I hope to see you here. Peace.
What is consciousness? The live stream of consciousness is on a quest to unravel the mysteries of existence. Every episode, we ask the fundamental question that has captivated human minds for centuries. Is consciousness merely a product of our brains, or does it connect us to something greater?